Hello everyone, today the topic which we guys gonna study is aortic regurgitation. In aortic regurgitation, there is inadequate closure of the aortic valve leaflet. Due to the failure of this closure, there will be a backflow of blood through the aortic valve in diastole. Under normal circumstances, whenever the left ventricle contract, at this part of time, the aortic valve will open and blood will pass from left ventricle to the aorta. And during the diastole, there will be the closure of the aortic valve and the blood will reach the peripheral circulation. In aortic regurgitation, due to the inadequate closure of the valve leaflet, there will be a backflow of blood during diastole. As a result of this backflow of blood across the aortic valve in a diastole, now the heart will deal with high volume of blood. But this high volume of blood will not reach the peripheral circulation because in diastole it's leaking backward. So due to this, the heart will have an increased preload due to the high volume of blood, and to counter it, it will also increase stroke volume because the blood is not reaching the peripheral circulation. So the heart is applying more force to pump the blood forward. So as a consequence of these two things, increase preload and to increase the stroke volume, the heart will dilate. There will be an eccentric hypertrophy of the heart, mean that the heart will dilate but the heart muscle will get lengthy, not bulky. So there will be initial dilation of the heart, and if this process is going on, there will be failure of the left ventricle, which will eventually lead to the rise left ventricular and diastolic pressure, and can also cause pulmonary edema. A question arises that what caused this aortic regurgitation? This aortic regurgitation is caused by a wide variety of factors. The first one is a dilated aortic root. Mean when this aortic root get dilated, it will pull apart the aortic valve leaflet. So due to it, the valve will not align and there will be a backflow of blood across the aortic valve. This dilated aortic root is primarily caused by hypertension, which will eventually dilate or stretches the aortic valve leaflet. The second one is a congenital disease such as a Marfan syndrome, and the third one is in tertiary syphilis. The tertiary syphilis cause aortitis, which will lead to the dilation of aortic root. Other than this dilated aortic root, the aortic regurgitation is also caused by bicuspid aortic valve. Mean that under normal circumstances, the aortic valve have three cusps. When this three cusp is replaced congenitally with two cusp, it is called as a bicuspid aortic valve. These valves are weak and the patient will have a regurgitation of blood across the bicuspid aortic valve. This bicuspid aortic valve can occur alone congenitally or it occur in association with other congenital disease such as Turner syndrome and the coarctation of aorta. At last, the endocarditis and the rheumatic heart disease also cause aortic regurgitation. In endocarditis, there is a perforation of the aortic cusp and the patient will present with an acute mitral regurgitation. And in the rheumatic heart disease, there will be an autoantibody reaction to the aortic valve. But remember that when the cause of the aortic regurgitation is rheumatic heart disease, there will be also a history of the mitral valve disease because the rheumatic heart disease primarily affect mitral valve. Now let's discuss the clinical feature of aortic regurgitation. To diagnose aortic regurgitation, remember that there are 3 pulse, 3 BP and the 3 murmur in aortic regurgitation. The 3 pulse include collapsing or the water hammer pulse. You guys can see the collapsing or the water hammer pulse here. This is called as a water hammer because it will produce a noise like a hammer blow. The second one is a dancing carotid or the Corrigan pulse. You guys can see the dancing carotid here. This is produced due to the decreased diastolic and increased systolic pressure. So there will be an upstroke during a systole. The third one is the capillary pulsation. The capillary pulsation is also called as a Quincke sign. It is usually seen in capillary nail bed with the help of a glass slide. The 3 blood pressure in aortic regurgitation are high systolic blood pressure, low diastolic blood pressure and wide pulse pressure. Let's explain it. As we discussed in a pathogenesis that during diastole there will be a backflow of blood across the aortic valve. So due to this backflow there will be a low diastolic blood pressure. but during systole, the aortic valve will be closed and there will be a normal functioning. So there will be normal or high systolic blood pressure, and the difference between the systole and the diastole will be greater because there will be a low diastolic blood pressure. So due to this difference, there will be a wide pulse pressure. At last, the three murmur in aortic regurgitation are the early diastolic murmur, Austin-Flint murmur, and the Duroz sign. The early diastolic murmur is a characteristic for aortic regurgitation. It is best heard at the lower sternal border, and it is a blowing decrescendo diastolic murmur. Mean that it will be a blowing, mean that we are blowing air in straw, and it will be a decrescendo, mean it will decrease in intensity, and it will be a diastolic, mean that it will occur after S2. You guys can hear the blowing decrescendo diastolic murmur of aortic regurgitation now. Second one is an Austin-Flint murmur. The Austin-Flint murmur is also called as mid-diastolic murmur. It is produced when there is a regurgitation of blood to the aortic valve, and this regurgitant blood reaches the mitral valve. So there will be a displacement or the closure of the anterior valve leaflet. So there will be a functional mitral stenosis. So it will produce a soft mid-diastolic murmur called as an Austin-Flint murmur. Last one is the Duroz sign. The Duroz sign is usually a diastolic murmur over the femoral artery, which we can hear when we gradually compress the artery. Other than these, there are some characteristic finding in aortic regurgitation, but these are usually historical. These days, they are not found in aortic regurgitation. It includes a head nodding with each heartbeat, called as a Demuset sign. There will be a pistol shot murmur over the femoral artery called as Trube sign, and there will be a Hale sign, mean a higher BP in leg than and in arms. So it was all about the clinical feature of aortic regurgitation. Now let's discuss that what are the sign of severe aortic regurgitation, because it is important and it appear in exam. The sign of severe aortic regurgitation is prolonged early diastolic murmur, the absent or soft A2, the presence of left ventricular third heart sound, the presence of Austin-Flint murmur, and the sign of left ventricular failure, and the sign of enlarging heart. All of these are the sign of severe aortic regurgitation. It was all about the clinical feature. Now let's discuss the investigation for the aortic regurgitation. Remember that the Doppler echocardiography is the investigation of first choice for detecting aortic regurgitation. Other than this, we can also perform cardiac catheterization and aortography, which is usually performed to assess the severity of regurgitation. Other than these, we can also perform MRI and the chest X-ray to assess the degree and the extent of the aortic dilation. Now let's discuss the management for aortic regurgitation. In asymptomatic, moderate to severe aortic regurgitation with normal left ventricular function, we prefer a long-acting nifedipine. While in symptomatic patient, if there is a normal left ventricular function, we will prescribe a long-acting nifedipine. But when there is a left ventricular dysfunction, we will prescribe a digitalis, ACE inhibitor, and diuretics. And in severe cases, when there is a severe sign of a heart failure, we can perform a valve replacement. So what are the indication for surgery or the mitral valve replacement in aortic regurgitation? The indication for surgery are, the first one is a symptomatic patient, mean if a patient present with a symptom of heart failure, perform surgery. The second one is if the patient is asymptomatic but there is a left ventricular systolic dysfunction, mean that the ejection fraction is less than 50%, or there is a left ventricular dilation, mean that the left ventricular and systolic dimension greater than 55 mm, or the left ventricular and diastolic dimension greater than 75 mm, we can go for surgery. And at last, if there is a aortic root dilation greater than 50 mm, we can also consider surgery. So all of these are the indication for surgery. If the patient met this criteria, we should go for the aortic valve replacement. But remember that in acute aortic regurgitation, there will be a sudden left ventricular dysfunction. So in this case, we will not consider the criteria and we will directly perform the surgery. So it was all about the aortic regurgitation. If there is still any question, you guys can ask and stay tuned for more update.